What is going on, guys? Noah Brewer here, back again with another video, and today we are going to be reviewing a ad account that is producing almost $1 million every single month in sales. Now, this is a client who came to us about 2 weeks ago, and I had to really sit down and analyze everything that he was doing to get to this point, and I thought it was really crazy. It was definitely a lot of information to take in, but this isn't my first rodeo, so I pretty much knew exactly what to do. And just in these 2 week span, we've been able to generate him around another $60,000 in revenue that he wouldn't have gotten without us, and honestly probably even more with what we're doing in his other accounts. So like I said, this is a client who came to me wanting help with scaling, and I think we cracked the code for this ad account. So in this video, I'm going to kind of look at it with you guys, show you what I found, what my thoughts are, how we're planning on making everything perform a lot better. So before I get into it, I want to break down the margins of this product just so that you can kind of understand the numbers inside of the ad account. So the margin of this product is $20 per unit. So we have, we're buying it for $10, selling it for $30. So it's essentially a $20 margin, 67% gross margin. So the break-even ROAS is less than 2. I think it's like 1.4, 1.5. So in this scenario, I want you to keep that in mind when you're looking in the ad account, because normally on this channel, we're talking about 4 ROAS, 5 ROAS, sometimes even 3. But in this ad account, the return on ad spend is much lower for 2 reasons. Number one, it's a lower ticket product, and usually lower ticket products have smaller ROAS just because there's not much margin there. And for number 2, it's at a very large scale right now. Like, it's spent $1.4 million in total, and when you're at that scale, it's very, very difficult to maintain a 3 to 4 ROAS. So actually the margins for this product are very good for like where the actual return on ad spend is looking. So I want to jump into this ad account, and I'm kind of going to walk you through the backstory, like kind of how he got to where he is today. I'm going to explain a little bit about the current strategy that the client was doing before we stepped in, and I'm also going to talk about kind of what our plan is moving forward and how I'm planning on taking this to $2 to $3 million a month fairly quickly. And so far my plan is working out, which I'll kind of show you in the ad account right now. All right, so we are in the ad account now. I probably will have to blur out some campaign names, but I'm going to try to not blur out as much as I can just so that you can see the names of everything and what everything is. But I'll kind of explain it to you. So what you're looking at here is essentially what the client had before he came to us. I'll kind of scroll up to the top of where it is. So right here and down essentially is what he had going. Now, if you watched my last video on YouTube, you know how much seeing this ad account is just making me cringe. The way that the campaigns are named is just terrible. And this is one of the reasons it was so difficult to actually come in here and try to figure out what the hell was going on, because everything is named a lot different to the way that I normally name it. But essentially what he's doing is a whole lot of manual bidding, and he has a ton of ad sets that are set at a $500 a day budget, and he puts on manual bid at a certain amount. I think it's like $20. Which is his margin, and then he kind of just lets them run, and usually they don't really spend the full amount. So what he has to do is just duplicate them a ton of times. So this strategy obviously worked very, very well for him, getting him to where he is, and you can see the results on the screen. He's seeing like a 2, or honestly around a 2 ROAS on average. Like he has some with a 1.8. His retargeting is doing a 2.7. As expected, you would kind of expect the retargeting to do a little bit better anyways. But this is the strategy that he was doing, and he was also doing a lot of lookalikes and no interest targeting as well. That's one of the big things that's going on in this ad account, is no interest targeting, which in my honest opinion is actually better than lookalikes, mainly because it essentially is a lookalike. Like once you have this many purchases on your pixel, if you're targeting nothing, then Facebook is going to kind of use that data to try to find people that are similar to the people that purchase. So it essentially is a lookalike. It's just a really, really big one. So that's not a bad thing. That's actually a great thing. That means that this is, we're going to be able to scale this to as high as it possibly could. So that's a little backstory on the methods that he's following, and they're not terrible methods. There's just a few flaws to them. Number one, manual bidding can be really, really unpredictable. It essentially relies that Facebook is going to spend, but also not spend your entire budget. So to put it in an example, if you make a $500 per day you make a 500 per day ad set. Usually what we're seeing is it's spending like between $0 and $50 per day just because of the manual bid. Like it doesn't spend the full budget amount. And that's kind of what you want it to do, because you want it to spend a little bit amount and go out and get the cheapest cost of purchase that it possibly can. But on the contrary, the issue with that is the only way to get up to spending, 10, 20, 30K a day is just to have a shitload of ad sets. And that is not really a problem. Like if the profits are great, it could be worth it, especially considering that we have a team doing most of the work. The problem arises when you run into consistency and also replicatability. Now, the strategy is fairly consistent if you're consistent, but at the same time, the fact that the spending is out of your control just straight up worries me. Like, what if one day just none of them spend anymore? Or, who knows, maybe one day they will all spend the full budget and it'll run the account up a few $100,000 just in a day. And honestly, if it does that, it's probably not going to be profitable, so it could result in a huge loss. I have seen this happen before in the past. So overall, if you know me and my strategies, I stay away from manual bidding just because of the inconsistency and the unpredictability of it. But just for the main factor that it's working so well in this ad account, obviously we're still doing it. And it continues to be one of the main driving factors of this ad account for now. But on the side, what I want to do is introduce a kind of replicatable system that is actually predictable and it's actually consistent, where we can scale up to 50K, 100K a day and spend. And we actually know that it's going to spend. We know that it's going to bring in good results. So how do you do that? Well, if you're comparing it to manual bidding, it's very, very difficult to do that. Like, you're going to have to make hundreds of ad sets every single day just to keep up with that. And God forbid anything went wrong and they stopped spending, or if they spent too much. Whereas with, if you know about the ebook that I wrote about my CBO strategy, I'm kind of using a take on that strategy and implementing it into this ad account, where we start a CBO at $100 a day. And then every so often we duplicate it and double it. So, we start at 100, then we go to 200, then we go to 500, then we go to 1,000, and then we go to 2,000, 4,000, and so on and so on. And you could basically go on forever for as long as the ad account lets you. And that's kind of the scaling strategy that I've been using for a long time now. And I know that it works really, really well. And we're not going to run into the issues of spending, because we're trying to do it without manual bidding. So that's kind of my long-term goal for this account, is just to bring it to a point where, we can have a replicatable, a consistent, a predictable way of scaling, or like a path of scaling, which is the CBO method, just because it's really easy to get up to the high spend levels with CBOs, and it's really, really predictable. So the biggest hurdle to doing that is to get the first 2 or 3 CBOs to start working, to duplicate off of, and actually double the budgets on, which we just recently passed that hurdle, as I'll show you up on the top here. We started the first top 5 CBO. Now this actually does have manual bidding turned on. So we tried a top 5 CBO with manual bidding and it performed really, really well for the first couple of days, but we were still running into the issue of it not spending. So kind of that was an issue for me personally, because I want the consistency, I want the predictability. I don't want to run into the same issue that we were having with the ad sets, where we have to make 30 campaigns per day just to maintain a certain level. So the first thing that we did was created the same exact CBO top 5 without manual bidding, so that it would actually spend the full budget. And by God's grace, we were given a 4 return on ad spend, which in this ad account is honestly unheard of. And I was able to just take the method, that we already know. We've already proven it out with honestly tons of stores. We just took a guy to 700K using this method, over 10K a day, great profits on that store. Anyways, this method works. And we did it with manual bid, and I just explained what happened. It wasn't spending. We were running into the same issue. So then we did it without manual bidding, and the performance is insane. This is a better return on ad spend that has been seen in this ad account for a really long time, and the client is incredibly happy with what's happening. Even though, okay, I get this. Right now, the spend is very low. We started at $100 a day, and as we increase that spend, the ROAS is going to drop. We're not going to have a 4 ROAS on a campaign that's spending 10 grand a day. day. But even if we can match the 2 return on ad spend that we were getting on the other campaigns, it's still well worth it because it's actually going to spend the budget and we actually have a clear direction or path on how to actually scale it. So you can see that we kind of continued on the scaling system, taking it from 100 per day to 200 per day. And I think tomorrow we're going to take that 200 to 400, and we're just going to keep, or 200 to 500, my bad. And we're just going to keep on doing that until we get to, the desired spend amount. So, and keep on doing it until it's not profitable anymore. So as long as we can just keep on replicating this scaling system, it's going to be a breeze taking this store up to high spend. It's going to be slow at first, but once we get into, $1,000 per day budget CBO, which should be in under a week from now, it's going to start being super exponential, and we're going to start seeing that the hockey stick growth that I like to talk about a lot. So now that I got into kind of like our plan to actually scale it with cold traffic using the CBO method, and you can kind of see the results that we've been able to get as opposed to his old method, I want to talk a little bit about retargeting, because I think retargeting is something that is super underrated and many people don't do it enough. So you can see that when he came to us, he had essentially 2 campaigns. He has this retargeting ripper right here that has a 2.7 ROAS, and this new retargeting campaign that has 2.8. So one of the first thing, actually it was the very first thing that we did in this ad account, was create a new retargeting campaign. Now what he was currently doing was retargeting 12-day audiences. So essentially everybody in his pixel from the last 12 days he was retargeting, and this is really great, and this is a great thing to do as I talk about, in my retargeting 101 series. But the thing that he was missing, like a major key that he was missing, is retargeting 180 days. So the reason this audience is so powerful is because it's going to be your biggest pixel event audience. Essentially everybody in the last 6 months who has gone to your website, added to cart, made a purchase, is going to be in this audience. And that's a lot of people, right? So that's where you're going to be able to make your best return on retarget, or maybe not your best return, but your best revenue, because retargeting 12 days might get a higher ROAS because it's a fresher audience, whereas retargeting 180, even if it gets a lower ROAS, it's okay because the audience is going to be so big, we can actually spend a lot of money and scale a lot there. So this is what I was talking about. By implementing a little bit of extra retargeting, we were able to make this client like an extra 45 to 50 grand just in a couple weeks, just because I implemented a very simple strategy of retargeting at this scale, which is just doing a 20-day and then duplicating that into 100 a day. And there is a lot more that we can do with retargeting that we haven't even touched yet. So I am definitely excited to see what we're able to do with retargeting for this ad account. I think we're probably going to end up generating millions of dollars with retargeting alone, of course, once we get up to a higher scale. But yeah, like I said, my goal for this store is to bring it to 3 million per day, and I'm going to do everything in my power to actually make that happen. Hopefully this, duplicating and doubling thing is going to work. It's worked every time that I've tried it in the past. Like I said, I have clients all the time come in. I'm able to implement this method, and it ends up working really well. So yeah, I really feel like, where I'm able to come in and provide the most value is with these stores that are, they already have a winning product. They just need some better guidance on what to do to scale it and get it to that next level. And you can see, just like with this guy, he was doing really well on his own, but he was just lacking like the consistency, the predictability, and just having a plan and knowing exactly what they're doing. And also missing taking advantage of retargeting is a huge point that a lot of people mess up with, and it's honestly something that I've had a lot of practice with, and I've also seen a lot of success with. So I do want to say that if you're like this guy and you have a winning product and you're scaling it and what you're doing is working, that's great. But if you want to have me jump in your ad account and take it over and actually see what I can do to take it to the next level, we can just manage the ads for you. Feel free to send me a DM on Instagram and I'll take a look at what you do and see if we can take it to the next level. I'm sure that I can. I have a shitload of experience with ad accounts, and I'm going to probably be making a video update on this ad account in a few months just to show you, what direction we've been able to take it in. If it ends up working, if my original plan ends up succeeding, then I'll show you. As you can see, it's working pretty damn well so far. We've already got a 4 ROAS on a cold traffic campaign. We've already made an extra, 60 grand just with retargeting alone. Yeah, if you want me to scale your store, just send me a DM on Instagram and we'll get back to you. But yeah, I hope this video is valuable for you. And I thought it would be cool, you can kind of see like what we do behind the scenes with analyzing ad accounts and making decisions on a higher level. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. Leave a comment if you did. Leave some input if you have any ideas on what we can do to make it better. Then for sure leave it down below. But as for this video, this is Noah Brewer and I'm out. Peace.